take yourself seriously and good things will happen. Nobody ever said that because it's not true. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Chad and welcome back to another episode of Bootacular. 2021 edition, of course. So you just wait for 2022. Alright, Witchcraft. Hocus pocus magic. You know it till you don't. And that's what we gotta avoid here today. I would highly recommend producing good spells of healing and good fortune towards Chad Chomsky. Not that I need it, but I definitely want it, for sure. People get spooked out when you mention the first thing about witchcraft or magic. It's understandable. A lot of people do not have good experiences, especially if they go chasing the wrong ones. But what exactly is the wrong experience? Look, I know it's real, I do. And I'm gonna be a little bit silly in the prologue to this episode for a variety of very obvious reasons, but at the same time I think a lot of other people do as well. As soon as you start touching the edges of this sort of realm, it sort of is hard to grapple with and understand, but maybe today I can help you understand this debacle of whatever you want to call it. Well, that means if you don't understand what I'm talking about, that you're a muggle, and we don't have any time for muggles. For me, look, you might be wondering, Chad, you're kind of talking as if you know a thing or two about magic. You be practicing magic? No, your intent is really what matters. What you call upon something, whether it's a spirit or energy, however you want to say, your intent is going to make things better or worse for you. Alright? Depending on what you're asking for, and if it's really something you should be asking for. So, beautiful witches in the audience, I've been thinking so fondly and dearly of you, and you know, I just want to say it's a misunderstood practice, but at the same time, you know, people are people, humans are gonna do what humans do. If you hold a grudge, you hold a grudge. You take revenge, you take revenge. I'd say never take revenge. You guys, you know better, come on. Wise up, alright? People always think about the bad stuff when you talk about magic, but you know, whenever you say something is magical, like an experience in your life that you want to highlight, you say, hey, that was a pretty magical experience. It got connotations of goodwill and good fortune in it. So maybe that is how we should be thinking about the word magical. I've been to the ER 3 times, and every single time I've experienced something completely just out of my world, something I don't understand. ERs are like where you sort of reset. It's like a reset point in your life. It doesn't mean you failed. It's like, hey, you do not want to go to the ER. Now, look, last episode, we had quite an interesting occurrence when I went to my attic. Some people see a little bit something different, like maybe an alien or something like that. I've had 2 people say alien. This one sort of says like an owl-like, and that sort of brings me to the idea of something coven, like a raven. Ravens have beaks, and maybe witches do, maybe a shape-shifting witch. You know, all these things tie together, although it doesn't seem that way, you know. Witchcraft, magic, aliens, ghosts, they all sort of tie in together. If you view witchcraft and magic as advanced physics, you know, maybe abilities that people possess, like maybe certain forms of intelligence, however you want to call it. There are imbalances in dimensions beyond our own, similar to the ones we face in our reality. Like dark matter, you know, stuff like that. We don't really understand what dark matter is, or we really want to. It's dark and it's matter, and it's increasing in size. You can think of people as a microcosm of the spirit world, alright? And even the most frightening of people have a soul. Even if it's cased in under a lot of layers, they do have a soul. Everybody's got a soul. Same goes for spirits, you know? And sometimes when you don't want to exist, you create chaos. And if you collapse lower dimensions, higher dimensions cannot exist. Hocus pocus, you better beware. It's not a battle between good and evil. That doesn't exist. It's a battle between our own inner turmoil. And if you let it out, you let it out. You create more turmoil, there's more entropy. And what happens when entropy increases to the highest degree? Keep an open mind. That's what I've learned to do with these things. With magic, I've learned stuff like this. I've got to keep an open mind, because there's obviously a reason certain things exist in our, you know, idea pool. There is something very scientific about magic. If you know, kind of understand what's going on, if you know the mechanics of it from all angles, it does make a little bit of sense that it does exist. And I'm not going to say it doesn't, because I know it does, but you don't. And I guess the biggest lesson is that seeing the humanity in someone or something that frightens you is a great strength. Alright, so I guess I could tell you my story with witches. This is the first definitive encounter I had with 2 witches. I would say this experience was made overwhelmingly negative just based on what I was experiencing in terms of pain. So I won't say that witches are necessarily bad or evil, and that's not the impression I got. They can certainly be a little bit frightening. So yeah, driving up to the ER in the hospital, I noticed upside down signs, very foreboding, but I instantly got a sense that something was wrong. But this was in some town I didn't know, in the middle of Colorado, in a snowstorm. So I had no choice but to go from the car to the ER. So when we arrived, I get there, and I noticed in the window there are 2, I didn't even know what they were, walking in a very strange and unnatural way, you know, like movie CGI. And anyway, you know, they wheeled me in. I couldn't really do anything about it, and I was like really scared of these ladies, these nurses that were moving in this way. They spoke to me and helped me get settled in the hospital, like, hey, you need anything, you want some water? And they went to get me water or whatever. When they went to get me water, they said, hey, you gotta change into your gown, you know, doc's gotta see you, you know, all that stuff. And when I was changing, I took my clothes off, and they started hissing, and I thought, you know, this is really weird, so I'm gonna put my clothes in the bin. And I bunked them in the trash can. They were still hissing, but I thought, well, okay, this is not something I want to do at all. It's kind of an interesting detail, the hissing, because that's sort of been tied to disapproval or the booing of crowds, you know, in the 1800s or whatever. I mean, obviously they were nice, you know, they were being straight up as people. You know, I knew they were witches or something was up with these 2 people, and they were really, really nice. You know, they held my arm, they helped me get to where I needed to go. And so witches can be very visually unsettling, but obviously the most misunderstood. You know, people who practice magic with good intent, you know, people putting positive vibes out, you know, like prayer. You could argue that praying is magic, and you know, these things all align. If you believe in this stuff, or whether or not you do is not really the point. It's the connection you see in all of these things that's the most important, because, you know, if you go from talking about aliens like me to talking about witchcraft, there's obviously very little overlap. But if you understand sort of what magic is, it's sort of tapping into nature and things beyond our time. Hope you enjoyed this fantastic episode of Bootacular, and I guess I'll see you next time.